Welcome to Dungeons and Dragons Media, a critical miss. I'm Thomas. I'm from the Foundation for the Eradication of Gen 5 Pokemon. They're not here, but we're going to be giving a few other panels this con, specifically today. But for right now, at the glorious hour of just slightly after 9 a.m., I'll be talking to you about the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon series, Dungeons and Dragons 2000, Dungeons and Dragons Wrath of the Dragon God, and Dungeons and Dragons The Book of Vile Darkness. So, you may look at this and you're maybe thinking, well, Thomas, there should be a place for a modern-day incarnation of Dungeons and Dragons, something to really hit for modern-day audiences. And you know what? I actually agree. And don't worry, we're gonna talk about it. But first of all, we need to lay some ground rules if you're all going to spend the next hour with me here. We need to find out who Dungeons and Dragons is really for. So is it for the young? Is it for the talented? Is it for exactly who you think it's for? Or is it for Chris Pine? And just hear me out on this one. This is a legitimate possibility. So after many hours of soul searching, I've only been able to narrow it down just a bit, and that's I've discovered Dungeons and Dragons is very unfortunately not for children. And I know this because when going on the Spirit Halloween website for the adult Dungeon Master costume, you can see they're sold out of large and extra large. And if you can, well, they have plenty of small and mediums and teen sizes. And if you look at the size chart, you'll notice that they run incredibly small. Like, I would be a large, extra large for this. Teen size wouldn't fit me. And so, with this in mind, we have no choice but to conclude that Dungeons & Dragons, not for children. And let's start off talking about the cartoon. Don't worry, I'll talk about everything. This panel just won't be like 55 minutes about the cartoon and then 5 minutes on the movie at the end. Don't worry about that. But there's no better way of introducing the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon than the show itself. And this goes on for like 7 seconds. And this is the only point where I reference like when it was made.
Hey, look! A Dungeons & Dragons ride! Wow, neat!
Give me a break.
I don't like this!
What's happening?
Where are we?
Look out!
Fear not, ranger, barbarian, magician, thief, cavalier, and acrobat. That was Venger, the force of evil. I am Dungeon Master, your guide in the realm of Dungeons and Dragons.
Wasn't that great? Before we go on, though, I think, unfortunately, this gives me more questions than answers. For example, what are the 5 most dangerous roller coasters? Number 5, Action Park. It looks pretty good until you realize that's a water slide, and then everything kind of goes downhill. Number 4, any roller coaster from Roller Coaster Tycoon. I don't really think I need to explain that or the many lawsuits. And to be honest, this is relevant. Number 3 is the one in the intro. It did doink those teens and bring them to Dungeons and Dragons, that's for sure, and I don't want that. Number 2, Six Flags Thrilla Gorilla. I mean, I rode that last year, and afterwards it made my pelvis hurt, so I don't know what's going on there. And number 1, any roller coaster at Legoland. I mean, if you thought stepping on a Lego was painful, imagine riding one. Like, come on, guys. Which, I owe you another explanation, and that's why. Why are we here? Why am I talking about the D&D cartoon? And why am I a young person doing that? And Unfortunately, the answer is quite simple. And that's, well, other than D&D being incredibly popular and on the rise, Dungeons & Dragons is anime. And I can prove it. Although Dungeons & Dragons was created by Kevin Paul Coates and Dennis Marks, let's be clear, they don't make anime. And Gary Gygax, who, let's be clear, should not make anime, it was animated by none other than Toei Animation. And you know, Toei Animation, they're responsible for all your favorite shows, such as King Kong, the animated series, the Smokey the Bear show, and my personal favorite, Transformers. So with that, we have no choice but to conclude Dungeons and Dragons is anime. And now we can finally start talking about the show. How many minutes? Like 6 minutes into the panel. And there's no better place than with characters. So I'm just going to go over all the characters. By the end of it, you'll know a little bit about them and maybe a little bit about yourself. Good luck. Bobby is the barbarian of the group. He is young, headstrong, and most importantly of all, he has a massive heart. He loves his pet unicorn unit. There's Eric, the Cavalier. He's the rich kid. He's arrogant, cowardly, selfish, sarcastic, and honestly, I'm starting to wonder why he's my favorite character. Pink is the leader of the group and the ranger. Diana is the acrobat. She's actually sensible. In the canon of the show, she's actually a state champion in acrobatics. So she doesn't need to be in D&D and have a D&D class. She's already a superhuman. Fine, whatever, actually talented. A bit of a racist design, but you know, it was 1983. Let's give him a little bit of a break, shall we? There's Presto, the magician of the group. He's an introvert, nerd, and let's be real here. He's really kind of bad at what he does. And fun fact, unlike the other ones, Presto is his actual name. The rest of them have normal 80s names. No. He was born to get sent to Dungeons and Dragons. Sheila is the rogue. She's naive, timid, docile, mild, lonely. Really, she's every single negative Pokemon nature. And that is our main cast. But wait, there's more. There's Dungeon Master. And he's pretty insufferable like actual Dungeon Masters. But who can oppose all these powerful characters? It's none other than Venger, whose two personality traits are being evil, and that's about it. So with such a cool cast of this, you would think episodes would start with them doing something cool, like hanging out or going to a pool party. But no, the episodes kind of just start with them standing around staring into the void. And that's usually when Dungeon Master shows up offering a cryptic quest, promising a portal for them to return home. But in order to get the portal, they need to find a mysterious object or location. But Venger is out to stop them. And on their quest, they meet some, wacky little NPCs. And then they fail to, get that item and can't go home. But hey, at least the kids watching learned a valuable lesson. So, that's generally how the show goes. But we're going to go a little bit more into detail, alright? We're going to do some episode breakdowns, like it's last year's video essay economy. And we'll start off with The Night of No Tomorrow, the first episode of the show. It starts right after the intro ends with the group kind of just standing there. They're rudely interrupted by Tiamat, who kind of just shows up. Bobby, being the man of action that he is, decides to run up an int and has to get saved by his friends. They lure Tiamat to a cave, and, in Bobby's one turn, he climbs the wall, hits a boulder, and recreates his favorite scene from Pokemon Genji's rescue team. Dungeon Master appears out of nowhere and tells them if they travel north to the town of Helix, they might find a clue to help them on their way home. Which, first of all, that's definitely not promising them a way home. Second of all, they don't really have a choice but to say yes. They have no clue what's going on. And then Dungeon Master disappears around a pillar, presumably to partake in debaucherous activity. The gang heads north through a treacherous desert, with Eric, the Cavalier, being the only one to attempt any sort of sun protection. And here's a note to yourself, even though it is 9 a.m. on con day, please drink plenty of water, shower, it's a convention. The group wants food, so they decide to bully Presto into trying to pull burgers from his magic hat. He tries, but the beef he summons is a little bit too raw, so they can't eat that. On their way to Helix, they find a sign pointing upwards towards Merlin's mansion. And being players, they're unable to resist the temptation of not the main quest. So they go up and they meet Merlin, who's this all-powerful, all-knowing wizard, but who could do really anything but grow his own hair. Eric, who is already done with this NPC, decides to leave, but he is jump-scared by Tiamat, who's back for revenge. And then they lure Tiamat into a trap, it falls into the dungeons, which I can only assume are in the cloud section of the castle. If not, Tiamat just kind of falls to its death. I don't know what's going on there. But seeing his magical potential, Merlin offers Presto a chance to stay behind and teach him magic. And the group sees nothing wrong with leaving Presto with a strange old man they just met. So they just continue on without him. And first episode, 10 minutes in, Presto's already gone. They're down one. So they continue on, find the town of Helix, blah, blah, blah. They just kind of hang around. Meanwhile, at Merlin's castle, Presto's first step to become an expert wizard is to stir a pot and not ask any questions. He can't do that. He tries to make a portal for him and his friends to go home, but it mega backfires and releases a horde of dragons on the town of Helix. And at this point, you'd think Merlin would come back and pop a blood vessel, but Merlin actually reveals himself to be Venger in an act of mouth stretching that would make even the mummy proud. Knowing he's messed up, and that because of him, an innocent town and all of his friends are gonna die, Presto makes his best YouTuber apology face. But thankfully, the rest of the group was warned by a stereotype that this was gonna happen. So they're already on their way back to Merlin's castle, where they hit him with books. And, I don't like this attack. It's not very effective. Venger just jets back up. In fact, this isn't even the worst way literature can be used to hurt someone. But Venger's free, and he pursues the group, and they're like, well, Venger's here, so let's free Tiamat. And so, you know, when Tiamat's freed, Venger nopes the fuck out. He's just gone. And then Presto undoes the spell and like sucks in the dragons. And, you know, I'm starting to see, and then, oh look, there's Dungeon Master, and he's there, and he's like, hey guys, I got you horses, I'm cool. And I will say this is one of the very, very, very few times in the show that they actually get something for their troubles, in this case horses. However, Eric, he doesn't want to share horses, he wants his own horse. And Presto, having gained a newfound confidence in his magic abilities and apology video techniques, decides to, try some magic and summon Eric a mount. So he brings the cow back, and the cow licks Eric, and everyone laughs at Eric, and they ride into the sunset without Eric. And that is episode 1. Pretty good, right? Right? You may be noticing a pattern with the show, and that's they all make fun of Eric. And this gets really bad, actually, really bad, to the point of actual bullying. How many episodes do you think start with them making fun of Eric? How many episodes? 18's the closest, literally half the show. Literally half the show they start making fun of Eric. Now the question is, how many episodes end with them making fun of Eric? Not quite, it's a little over halfway again. But just to give you context about this image, Eric is holding on to dear life. He's like, come on guys, give me a hand, and they're clapping for him. They're giving him a hand. It's actually quite disrespectful. And so, episode 1, roughly that happens for about 19 more times until we hit episode 20, where things hit a boiling point for the party. And it starts off with the group versus a frost giant, which they win in an admittedly convincing manner. Then they have to split the mountains and solve the puzzle and all that. And they're so close to finding their way back home. And that's when Avenger comes and blows it up. And this isn't new to them. They're used to dealing with this, but normally the portal being destroyed happens at the end of the episode and not the start. So something's different. This time, they're depressed. Bobby breaks down because he's a child and misses his family, friends, and old life. And that's when Dungeon Master shows up, misreading the room, and he asks the party to find the Book of Darkness. Hank has had enough, and he's like, no, dude, we're not gonna find Atlas Shrugged for you. Just come on, man. And that's when they actually get into an argument, and Hank's like, you know what, we're gonna kill Venger. Either you're gonna help us or we're not. And Dungeon Master's like, fine, you can kill Venger, talk to Tiamat in the dragon's graveyard, but I don't want anything to do with this. So he just nopes out again and disappears. Before they can really learn what the dungeons or what the dragon's graveyard is, they're attacked by Venger. They almost escape into a cave when, very tragically, Uni, Bobby's pet unicorn, is lit the fuck up. And they have to kind of pull a Saving Private Ryan to get her back. Uni is injured and dying, and Bobby reacts about how anyone would in that situation, first responding with sadness and then anger. He vows revenge for the one who hurt his unicorn. And he says, and I quote, "Don't feel sorry for me, Sheila. Feel sorry for Venger." That's when the group combines their weapons and it makes some sort of symbol. I'm not really sure what it means. If you do, please let me know. And they're transported to the dragon's graveyard, which I can only assume is on the moon. And upon further inspection, it's not a very nice place. Unlike an actual Dungeons and Dragons party, they find a magic sword sharp enough to cut through rock, and they decide it's too scary to use or pick up. And they're like, we don't need that. Like an actual D&D party, they're attracted to the most interesting bit of architecture, and thankfully for them, that's where the plot is, as Tiamat shows up. And that's when, instead of talking it out, Tiamat uses poison breath, and they defeat it by holding their breath. I mean, you'd think poison breath would be able to do a bit more, but whatever, it ends, and they eventually talk. And they actually get along with Tiamat, and Tiamat's like, yeah. I'll lure Venger here. Your weapons, they're extra powerful. So you just mess them up and kill them, alright? Alright, good. So that's when Tiamat Kool-Aid mans her ways into Venger's studio apartment and kidnaps him pretty handily. And I will say this portal could have gone anywhere. It could have gone to the middle of space. It could have gone, to lava off a cliff anywhere. Nope. Tiamat played it by the plan and sent them to the dragon's graveyard. So now, finally, it's the gang versus Venger, but unfortunately for them, Venger cheats and brings a few +1s. And I'm not going to say these skeleton guys are clowns or anything, they actually do quite well, but it's up to Eric to save the day, because he's the only one to use the magic items on the ground to turn the tide in the party's victory. And Bobby fulfills his revenge by breaking the ground around Venger's feet, trapping him. And that's when everyone stands beside Hank, the leader, and they're like, okay, dude, it's up to you. It's your choice alone whether or not to take a human life. Any guesses? Do we think Hank can take the shot? No? Well, you'd be right, as Hank takes pity on Venger and decides to let him live. Much to the delight of Dungeon Master, who just shows up, and he's like, oh, it's like, congratulations, you didn't kill your enemy. Haha, I'm gonna heal your unicorn. And they all leave the Dragon's Graveyard. And right after they leave, Tiamat looks out disapprovingly. And I will say, this is up until now, Tiamat was like a side character, showed up every like 3-4 episodes. But this is the last time Tiamat appears in the whole show. In sparing Venger this one time, they lost their greatest ally. Roll credits. So this Dungeon Master, man. You may have realized at this point, like all real Dungeon Masters, this one's a bit of a sicko. Like, he's just kind of a condescending little guy. How many episodes do you think it has Dungeon Master smugly explain the moral at the end? It's always a little more than half. How many episodes do you think start with him smugly explaining everything? Okay, I got you. It actually is all of them this time. And now, I'm here to talk to you about the most notable episode of the show, The Time Lost. I'm not gonna tell you why it's notable. I'm just gonna trust that all of you can figure it out, alright? Do we have an agreement? The episode starts with the gang under attack by wyverns, but they're saved by, like, a fighter plane. The fighter plane fails to notice them, but it's being chased by Venger. And, this is after. These are chronological. This is episode, like, Avenger? Yeah, Avenger can just... Yeah, Avenger can just, like... They should have taken the shot. Anyways... the pilot says, and you're gonna want to hear this. He says, while he's being chased by Avenger, I'm pushing Mach 1 as he's gaining on me. Do we know how fast Mach 1 is? That's a movement speed of 6,521 feet per round, assuming you don't dash. And also, I would call that horse a Pegasus, but the wings are around Venger, so it's very possible he's just straddling the horse and then flying himself. Yeah, that's what the last person said, but I guess I'm not enough of a nerd to get the reference. That's when the Dungeon Master appears, and he tells the group, oh my gosh, movie level stakes, this one could affect the whole world. Oh, and also, Eric, you're gonna fall and hurt yourself, and that happens. Come on, guys. Meanwhile, at Venger Ziggurat, Avenger has finally captured the fighter pilot, a bunch with, a few other historical figures. He explains how he plans to use his ziggurat to create portals in time to yoink people for his dastardly plans. Meanwhile, during World War II, a self-propelled anti-aircraft weapon shoots down a bomber. This bomber falls out of the sky and into a weird portal, leaving the war to end all wars behind. Meanwhile, back in Dungeons & Dragons, the gang are kind of just standing there, staring into the void, as they usually do. And that's when a World War II bomber crashes right in front of them. And the party, being the good-natured selves that they are, decide to help the pilot out. The pilot introduces himself as Josef Mueller, and him and the party instantly hit it off. They decide to find a way home together because, hey, they're all from Earth. And everything's good and peachy, and they leave. But that's when the camera lingers on a certain symbol on the tail section of the plane. The party have a picnic with new BFF Yosef and comment how old and decrepit his plane are. And they're saying, oh, your plane's so old, what part of historical show you're a part of? And that's when Yosef looks at them and is like, wait, what do you mean? My plane is top of the line machinery. And that's when they lock eyes for 5 whole seconds. And then Yosef books it. He runs to the river and stares at his own reflection, like reflecting all the decisions that led him to that point. He casts off his armband, and it's pretty deep, and all that. But that's when the group they confront him. They're like, "Come on, man, what's going on?" And Yosef explains that while he was a member of the Axis, he doesn't believe in them now, and in this world, he's free. Astoundingly, the group's pretty fine with that. So, yeah, we're off to a pretty good start, right? Oh, there's a lot more, as Avenger shows up, kidnaps Yosef, and lights the forest on fire. And I have a little question for all of you. What do you do in a forest fire? Any throw spell, stop, drop, and roll? Any other suggestions? Run, leave. Those are suggestions ranging from pretty darn good to terrible, but they're infinitely better than what the group does because they, how should I put this? They create an ecological disaster. Meanwhile, at the ziggurat, Avenger offers Yosef the advanced fighter plane from the start of the episode. He says, like, look, Yosef, use this plane and then go back in time and win World War II, making it so the player characters were never born in the first place. Yosef agrees, as Avenger is only the second most evil overlord he's ever worked for. That's when the group comes and they confront Yosef, and he's like, "Nuh-uh, kid, you're gonna be history." And then he takes off and flies. Hank is unwilling to shoot down the plane. In a surprising twist, Yosef betrays Avenger and fires his laser beams at the ziggurat, destroying a time summoning orb. And the group cheers as Yosef ejects, crashes his plane into the ziggurat, which it's not great now, and then kind of just parachutes into the portal, and the portal closes. And that's why, but don't worry, Dungeon Master's here to explain how, because they warmed Yosef's heart, he when he got back, he defected to the Allies and helped them win the war. And then the group looks out and smiling over the burning ziggurat. And that's the episode. I think they got sent back. What the fuck? What was this? This... Oh, so this whole show is just like a slippery slope of fascist ideology. Is that what you're saying? Maybe you're right, because this Venger, like, this episode really puts things into context. Is he trying to get rid of the group, or is he trying to change the war? Like, you'd think there'd be easier ways to get rid of the party. Well, this is when, with a heavy heart, I have to tell you all, Dungeons & Dragons 1983, soon after this episode, it was cancelled. And Why do you think it was cancelled? Any guesses? It wasn't the episode where the group befriends and redeems a Nazi. It was actually the episode where they tried to kill Venger. Parents did not like the idea of them wanting to kill someone. Yeah, actually. Oh, nice though. Pretty cool. Oh boy. It's the perks.
We scare all of us.
It's moments like this that make being a panelist really worth it. Alright, thanks guys. I love the work you do here, by the way. Alright. Anyways, fans of shows, they're unwilling to let things die. And same with Dungeons and Dragons. As they actually they decided to make their own finale, because Dungeons and Dragons, the show ended with it just ended, like, just boom. But a few years later they released a radio broadcast, a radio show detailing everything. And the fans, they were like, well, we're fans, we want more. So we're gonna make our own comic, and in 2020 we're gonna find the time to reanimate the whole episode. So I know I was joking, but seriously, it's very incredible what the fans have done. They literally made their own canon finale by using reused animation and amateur animation to just make their own. So thank you, fans. Because of you, I'm here today to talk to you about the true finale of Dungeons and Dragons, simply titled Requiem. And before I begin, I must note this episode has actual direction. You would not see anything this interesting in the actual show. This is creative, and thank you again to the fans. Starts off with a location that's way too cool looking to be part of the actual show, and that's where there's Dungeon Master and Venger meeting? Well, really, Dungeon Master kind of just rolls up on Venger, and they make a bet. If the players win this time, they succeed and go home. If they lose, they die. And really, it's the stakes of the whole show that we were supposed to believe applied to every episode, but no, they just kind of apply to this one. So, the episode starts with the gang fighting a three-headed dragon, or a wyvern, I'm not sure which. And to be honest, it's not going particularly well. And like all religious groups, they pray out to their god, Dungeon Master, who kind of just tells them to fuck themselves. They barely make it out as they fight in front of a red barren earth and stand under two suns, which definitely isn't any Star Wars inspiration here. You can see that the sky is orange and the sand is red, indicating how harsh and lifeless and just decrepit the realm of Dungeons and Dragons is. Unfortunately, they've hit another boiling point for the party. Nothing will be the same again. Eric gets mad at Hank, believing they should go north rather than south. Yes, that's the conflict that splits the party in two. Hank defuses the situation, but everyone's still unhappy, and to be fair, arguments in D&D games do go like this, so, it is realistic in that sense. So the group is camping under the twin moons, which I didn't even know there were twin moons until now, but, what do I know? It's pretty good world building that would have been nice 26 episodes ago. But Venger appears and offers them a way home if they go to a cenotaph in like some special ruins in Lord of the Rings and yeet this special key into the abyss. And the group, having just been told off by Dungeon Master, actually factionalizes at this. Eric, Sheila, and Presto, they want to go home. They're so sick of this show. They're so sick of Dungeons and Dragons. So they're like, fine, whatever, we'll do anything it takes to get home, even if it means doing what Bender says. Well, somehow Hank, Diana, and Bobby decide to trust Dungeon Master and help them out. And I will say, brief side tangent, these toys, you can still buy them today. Like Eric and Presto, they're $25. That's not bad. You're probably going to spend a lot more money than that this weekend. So, not bad. Bobby and Diana, $13. I mean, it's not great, but it's a little under a meal. It's pretty reasonable, all right. Sheila isn't even here. Like, she probably put on her invisibility cloak and walked away. Hank is $5. Eric's team leaves on a flying boat, and Hank's team, and they're like, we can't let them help Venger. We have to anti-help them help Venger. And so they roll a nat 20 on animal handling and pursue them, and they kind of chase them over a volcano, just to be extra dramatic. And Hank, being the incredibly cool and not awful person that he is, decides to open fire on his former friends. And this works better than you think, as their ship catches on fire and they fall into lava. So, I will say, Hank, he's not gonna shoot Venger. He's not gonna shoot a Nazi. But Eric? You know what he do to Eric. Anyways, the rest of the group is appropriately horrified at what Hank has done. Even Hank himself looks distraught at the murders he just committed. But he gets over his grief really quickly, and he's like, okay, don't worry, gang. We have to keep moving forward. It's what the rest of the group would have wanted. So they reach the cenotaph, and look at that door. It's the same start as the roller coaster. References by the fans. And look at the knocker on the door. That's the title card knocker. And I accidentally spoiled it, but Eric and the gang are alive. Anyways, this is an incredibly cool detail that really, this was once a radio drama. Like, these are details only the fans put in. Like, just stuff like this that really makes this feel like these 27 episodes were worth it. Were just because of the fans. So thank you. So Eric, Sheila, and Presto, they turn out to be alive. They've survived. Eric, he's just happy to be with his friends again. Hank is still not willing to let things go. I think so. I think so, but it doesn't make any sense. They live. They resume their arguing, and that's when Hank is like, okay, if you're gonna want to if you're gonna want to get into the cenotaph, you're gonna have to go through me. And that's when Eric's like, okay, that's fine. Presto, fuck him up. And unlike Ash Ketchum, who would have taken the blast, Hank jumps out of the way like a little bitch. In the cenotaph, they need to fight this slime monster, and look, that's hand animated. That looks incredibly cool. Like someone just drew that. And that's when they finally reach the top of the cenotaph, while they look out into like a vaporwave thumbnail. And Eric and Hank, they're still fighting what to do. And while they're fighting, Hank accidentally falls out a window into the void. We did it. We got him. Unfortunately for them, the slime monster comes back and really does a number on the rest of the party. It's up to Eric alone to decide what happens to him. And that's when Eric has a flashback, all the Dungeon Master's wise advice. And despite his better judgment, decides to trust Hank's intuition And in a last-minute change of heart, he uses the key to unlock just a random door, which, I assume that was the other point, which opens and shoots bursts of light across the realm. This magically fixes everything, and I'm being serious. Like, the portals open to new realms, and as you can see, everyone, realizing they have a chance to get out of Dungeons and Dragons, nopes out immediately. The monsters also leave. Presumably they will cause the new realm to be just as barren as decrepit as the old one in due time. Also, Hank turns out to be alive. The magic even fixes Venger, curing him of his evil, which apparently he had. And I will say that this buffoon was the villain of the whole series. He looks like that. He was the villain of like 28 episodes. That's how you spent like multiple hours of your life rooting against. I think this was a little bit ahead of its time, if I'm being honest. Also, he's revealed to be Dungeon Master's son. Blah, I really am struggling. I'm struggling to care anymore. And it's finally time for them all to go home from Dungeons and Dragons. But at the very last minute, Presto's like, you know what? Avenger here promised to teach me magic all the way back in episode 1. I'm staying. And everyone else is like, listen, man, you're named Presto, okay? I'm not going to argue with you. There's not much for you back there. So they kind of just leave him, and having escaped the world of Dungeons and Dragons, yay! But, unlike usual credits, which go from the start of the coaster to the end of the park, panning right, this one panned left, from the end of the park to the start of the coaster, where they actually see the group, they've made it back. And again, this is a detail that's completely visual. This is something that wasn't in the radio drama, that the fans did. Genius directorial move, by the way. Thank you, fans and animators. And so, 40 minutes into the panel, that's Dungeons and Dragons. Was it worth it? Was it worth it? I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. But this came out in 1983. What else was it running in 1983? Alvin the Chipmunks, Rubik, The Amazing Cube, and Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo. Compared to those, this is art. So that was Dungeons and Dragons. What have we learned? No, what have we learned? We knew that already. Yeah, but counterpoint, it's a unicorn. It's a unicorn. Alright, how many of you have watched the movies again? Because I think we have enough time for a little bit of a lightning round. Talk about all the movies. Because somehow talking about the show didn't last me the whole hour. Dungeons and Dragons 2000 is the first movie in the Dungeons and Dragons franchise. It's actually quite charming. It has real student film energy. I mean, look at this dragon. Try as I might, I can't hate this movie. Look at this beholder. I can't hate it. But, admittedly, the movie's not perfect. It's about as sexist as the average D&D game, so, not great. But, it's, for what it is, it's fine. The same cannot be said about Dungeons and Dragons Wrath of the Dragon God. This one's not good. Don't watch it. It's not worth your time. And I'm the one telling you that. I just spent like 7 hours of my life watching the D&D cartoon. Don't watch Wrath of the Dragon God, it's not good. The only thing is that they bring back Damodar from the first movie, and not even his luscious blue lips can save this one. Dungeons and Dragons: The Book of Vile Darkness is the weird middle child of D&D. It's basically the Shadow the Hedgehog of D&D movies. It starts off with the main guy, Grayson. He's invited to join a D&D party that like killed his old religious organization. So he joins them and he decides to kill them off, Kill Bill style, from inside, while trying to discover the morality of trying to take a human life. Okay. Alright. And look at the movie summary. First of all, who wrote this? First of all, it's too long, and it's all about like the MacGuffin. We really don't care about it. Second of all, it's listed as a TV series, which isn't true. Third of all, it's a rated R, and I need to remind you, just because you can watch something doesn't mean you should watch something. And wait, 2012? That means this came out when D&D 4 came out. It's a D&D 4 movie. Actually, I think this movie's good after all. You really should watch this one. I love D&D 4. It's the best edition of Dungeons and Dragons. Don't at me. So, you know how I was talking about a modern day D&D movie? We can actually talk about it. Honor Among Thieves. Let's go. I actually did watch this movie and I liked it. I liked it quite a lot, actually. It's no Taz, Quest for Burger, but then again, not many movies are. And I have some observations or jokes I just have to say. The acting is actually good, which I forgot to remove all those things. The acting is actually good, particularly from a D&D movie, and Forge in particular was the best character by far. The whole plot revolves around how absolutely fucked D&D's resurrection mechanics are, which is true. I mean, to be fair, you should need more than an hour in the diamond. And also, the Paladin is super OP, so they kind of just have to write him out. Okay, whatever. The movie is about as charming and clever as MCU movies think they are. And finally, the box office budget for this movie, way too high for what the return was. So I doubt we'll ever get a true follow-up that's nearly this level of to do a radio show. True. But oh my gosh, look! There's the old gang. They're somehow back in Dungeons and Dragons. There's Sheila, Diana, Bobby. Ew, there's Hank. And even Eric is shown. The only one who isn't shown is Uni. So unfortunately, we can only assume that Uni died off screen during the time skip. It's finally time we talk about Bright. Fortunately, I do not want to talk about Bright. Maybe we can talk about something a bit easier, like the Bright music videos. In the first one, Home, they kind of just solved racism by telling the cops no. And I wish it were that simple, but somehow Bright is the most idealistic piece of media this decade. I don't get it. This message clearly a bit out of the scope of Bright. But unfortunately, I actually did watch Bright, and it definitely didn't take me sitting through an actual party while my friends were getting drunk. We just sitting there watching Bright. Completely sober, but the whole movie, it's just Will Smith being an asshole to orcs, fairies, elves, women, cars, pretty much anything. And would you believe me if I were to tell you it's not a good movie, like at all? Did you know Bright is a wiki? And And by all accounts, Bright was greenlit for a sequel. And then it happened. The snap. I mean the slap. But because of this, Bright 2 was cancelled. There will be no Bright 2. Just Bright Samurai Soul, the animated movie on Netflix. But we did it anyways. Bright was cancelled. Thank you for showing up to the panel. Later on today, me and the group we're having the Super Mario Bros. Super panel. 10:30 we have top percent into the Joeyverse, and I meant this says 10:30, but it's meant to say midnight. So it's midnight. Sonic of Unfortunate History, and you can follow us at our link tree, or if you like this panel done by me for some reason, you can follow my letterbox. And maybe leave a comment under my D&D movies and say hi. But thank you, everyone. I'll now be opening the floor up for questions because we somehow ran early. Yeah, go on. Yeah. Yeah, but then it raised the risk of people actually being transported to D&D while playing D&D, and it was the 80s. You couldn't get away with that. And I'm not gonna lie, portraying D&D players as the player characters from the party, not a great idea. You don't wanna be like those nerds. No, I didn't. I stuck to mainline D&D movies. Listen, I watched Bright. You can't tell me anything's worse than that. Oh, like, well, because I actually made the panel in reverse order than you're supposed to. So I wrote the summary before I wrote the panel, and that's why like 80% of it's about the cartoon. And so when I accepted it, or when I submitted it to FanimeCon earlier this year, they accepted it, and the guy was like, "I can't wait for your panel. I can't wait to see you talk about Bright. I hate that movie." And I'm like, I have to watch Bright now. And so I watched Bright. Truly, I'm the most tragic figure in human history. Go on. Um, it's never explained. They were just unlucky enough to be sent to D&D. That was one of the better episodes, actually. There's actually an episode I really I was considering talking about it, but talking about 5 episodes is a lot, so I didn't. But in it, Venger's boss shows up. They open a magical treasure chest, and it releases Venger's boss. And unlike the other episodes where Dungeon Master is smug, Dungeon Master is like, "Oh my gosh, it's Venger's boss, Eater of Worlds. We're done for." And they spend the whole episode running away from Venger's boss. And at the end, they're like, "We escaped Venger's boss, Eater of Worlds, who will destroy this realm. But don't worry, he will be back. He will be the main villain." And then he never shows up again. So, I'm not really sure they had, like, they really could have given it a bit more thought. But to be fair, it was, what else were the kids gonna watch? Scrappy Doo? Like, alright, anyone else? One second, give me a sec. No, he leaves the uni with Presto. because he can't take unicorns back to the human realm. Even though in a previous episode, I mean that's true, but in a previous episode they actually do get out, but they actually do escape Dungeons and Dragons, go back to the theme park, but without Eric. And they're like, well, I guess we have to save Eric. And they're like, do we really have to? And they're like, I guess. So they go back in. But at least for some part of time, Uni was in the movie. There's a reason why I say Bobby is one of the best. The only two real characters in the show are Bobby and Eric, and that's why they're the best characters. I haven't put it in the panel yet, but there actually is a Brazilian car ad that ties up that gives its whole other ending on here. I would have added that if I remembered to while I was at my brother's apartment yesterday. The comic book of D&D? Yeah, that exists, but like most comic books, we have to kind of take that and we have to put it in like a separate realm of canon. Kind of like how the Adventure Time comics aren't canon to the Adventure Time show. Like if we include comics, then this panel will be 2 hours, and I don't think anyone wants that. Thoughts were on it. I think it's pretty cool that it was made. Alright, anyone else? Because you're all free. I'm the only one who's trapped here. So I know
Oh, true! Oh my gosh.
Oh, look. Listen, there's not going to be as many panelists here. It's fine, though. And thank you all for showing up.